As to somebody finding gold or what you're talking about, muskets at that time and equipment for their mules and no, nobody has ever come in here with anything of that sort.
The more that I hear and the more that I research, it probably is a good urban legend. In talking to the archaeologists and the historians, there are a couple of issues that they have. First of all, what was the treasure made of? The letter talks about bearing the silver and bearing the gold. Well, that wouldn't have been coinage because Fort Duquesne was a frontier post. So they'd have had no use for coins. They'd have no place to spend it. They couldn't go down to Walmart and spend them on weekends. It was probably it probably wasn't bullion because there again they'd have no use for that on the frontier. What it probably was were trinkets and jewelry, gold and silver, that way, trading items that they could trade with the natives and trade among themselves. And when they did make provision runs, it would have some value. So that was probably the treasure. There evidently isn't any record in Fort Duquesne of this event ever occurring. There is, of course, a record, and that's why some of the people put the date at about 1758, of the fort being near collapse, of a major British force moving against the fort, the fear that it was going to be overrun. So that part of the story is evidently true, but there's no record of the gold ever being moved out.
Do I think it existed? Yeah, I really do. I really do, and what I've read and all that is, it's not a fairy tale. It is not a fairy tale. Because the one gentleman we had here, he had gone to the Department of Interior to get the layout of the land and all the information he could about the soldiers, and he got it out of Washington. So there has to be some truth. Otherwise, they would never had records of sort that's what happened on that.
But it's interesting to read through the file that they have at the Historical Society of all of the different articles that span from about 1930 on, because we've lost the newspapers before then. But even in that short period of time in relationship to the legend, the number of people who have gone out and explored and dug, I mentioned the different signs that they found from different periods of time. Well, every time they'd find one of these, everybody go back out to this guy's farm and dig up the field. When I was in school, the big craze was metal detectors, and one of the merchants in town sold metal detectors, and the best place to use the metal detector was out on the farm looking for the lost French gold. And we have a great collection of beer cans and needle and nails and things like that they found, and some odd coins from various periods of time that farmers let drop out of their pockets, but nothing French.
But as I told you and all, if anybody did find it, the government doesn't want the gold. It's not worth anything to them. The only good thing it would good to you if you got it was to melt it down, and you got gold nuggets then, you know. Or if you find, as I said before, if you found somebody who dealt in antique things and all, and wanted the gold, you may get a good price out of it. For that person who just wants to say he has that gold. But as I told the gentleman who was in here one other time looking for it and all, I said, if you find the gold, you will end up being the king of our Lost French Gold Festival that we have here in Minerva. But his never came back.
So I wrote the book Henry Mussel's Treasure and took the name from the one French soldier that survived the attack. And wanted to tell something about the village that was an urban legend, that was folklore, something that was ongoing. So it really looked at, and my question was, how, if we were going to look for the gold today, how would we find it? And what technology is out there that we might be able to use? And that led me to some things like GIS, which is a Geographical Information System, where you can take a series of maps and scan them into a computer and put data with them and demographic information and all kinds of information, and then pull the different layers up through the maps to show you different things. And they have Archaeologists have used that in several sites where they have maps from different periods, and they're able to go back and overlay the maps and find where ancient cities are buried. The other science that's available are a lot of the imaging satellites and radar systems that are out there, and infrared, where we can look at very small areas of the earth and see where the earth was disturbed 100 years ago and find graves and things from outer space. So if you could take all of those technologies together and you had all of the clues, you'd be able to find the gold. And that's one of the premises of the book and the way that they search for it.
Too many been in here with Geiger counters and all, went all over that ground, you know, all that's out there. If it was still buried there, I would assume that with the modernistic apparatus they have this day and age, they would be able to find the spot or close to the spot.
You'd have to get the geologist to tell you how many inches of earth are put over with each passing year, but yeah, if it's still there, it's probably down pretty good. And then the question becomes, would it still be intact, being in the acidic ground 250 years? What would be left of it? So how well was it packed? How well was it wrapped? So there are all those issues that come up too. So it'd be interesting if somebody took the time, and I'm sure somebody will take the time and spend the money to do the research from space and buy the satellite imagery that will pinpoint the farm and really go over and scour it and see what's down there at a depth of 250 years previous to this. And I think when they do, it'll answer a lot of questions.
Those people are from out of town, out of state, to come in here and want to hear about it or read about it. And that's all we do is get them the folder. They can't take it with them. No. If it's part of the history of the area, it'll stay here, you know. Come in anytime, you know, and sit down and read it all you want to. If you want to come back and take the next folder, that's fine.